Now what I've done is I have traced the outline of each of these feet onto just some textured cardboard, and I've added a little bit of a square toe. These are going to be the soles of the boots. I actually want these to have a little bit of a heel, so I'm going to bend them kind of like a zigzag. And do you remember the tissue paper with the pre-wrap that we that I showed you, gluing it and then painting it? I added a little bit more black paint to this so that it just has kind of a leathery look. And these wrinkles that happen with the tissue paper make it look kind of worn and old, which I like. Now we're going to actually make the boots, and I have the material that I made with the tissue paper and the pre-wrap. I've painted it, glued it together first and then painted it with acrylic paint, and I've done a couple of different layers. First I painted this side, and then after that dried, then I painted that side. And then as it dried, I just set it up on something very gently, like say on top of that, so that it could dry without sticking. You don't want to dry it flat on, say, a piece of paper, otherwise it will rip when you pull it off after it's dried. So now we're going to make him some boots, and let's see, I've drawn this one a little bit too tall. Okay, so you want to, as you're finishing up the pattern, you want to kind of measure against whatever figure you're creating. So first I have the traced feet here, and then this is the front of the shoe, and it needs to be able to, you know, have enough space on either side to kind of build it up. And then this one is the side of the boot, and so it needs to be as tall as you know, you're expecting it to be. And then a little bit of extra leeway at the bottom. In fact, all of these are going to have a little bit of a curve over. And then you cut your pattern pieces out. And this is the back of the boot here. Okay, I'd like to use a little bit of this, it's actually for like making cards and scrapbooks and things like that. It's called crafter's tape. And I'd like to use a little bit of that, just put a tiniest little bit on your different pattern pieces. That way you're not trying to hold on to them while you're cutting. And let's see, I actually try to conserve the material just because, you know, you've worked to make it, you don't want to waste it. Okay, and you can leave a little bit of extra on the parts of the pieces that are actually going to go wrap around underneath the sole of the shoe. And on this one I'm going to actually add a little bit to this side as well for the seam. You see it sticks a little bit to the foam, but not too badly. Let's see. I'm making this one the opposite. You need two of these pieces for one boot. And you want them to be on the opposite side. Okay, and you can save your pattern pieces if you are going to be making another figure, you know, with the same size of boots. Get rid of these scraps. By the way, these work great for collage and things like that, so don't throw them away. Okay, so for each boot you want 2 of the side pieces. You want 1 toe piece and 1 heel piece. You also want, there it is, you also want a little inner sole. This is the outer sole that we drew and cut out on the textured cardboard. This can just be really thin cardboard or thick paper or something like that, and you want it to be a little bit smaller. So I'm actually going to trim this down just a touch more. Doesn't have to be exact. It just it gives your shoe something to be kind of adhered to. So this is going to go underneath this foot. We don't want it extending out very much. On these sculptures, because this character is not actually going to be, you know, walking in these shoes, they don't have to be comfortable, you know, and they don't have to be able to slip on and off, because this also isn't a doll that, you know, is going to be dressed and change clothes and things like that. So it's so you can actually create the shoe when in situ, you know, in so that your sculpture is actually wearing the shoe. I'm going to use a little bit more of this crafter's tape and stick this inner sole on the foot. Gives me something, you know, kind of flat and firm to adhere all the different pieces to. And then this is also helpful, to add a little bit of this crafter's tape, and you could use glue, you could use contact cement, things like that. Each one has its drawbacks. This one, well, you can see what the drawbacks are. It kind of wants to stick to everything, which I guess is the what glue does. So, and I'm also going to put a little bit of this up here, see how that works. I used glue on the first one I made, and I'm just going to try something different. And then this is a little technique that I discovered that helps me. This might help you, it might not, but especially for the toe, you have to kind of bend that around the foot, and it just is way easier for me if I adhere this wire to the toe, because it helps curve it around and keep it that way. Alright, so, and on the other shoe I actually